a week, usually often much quicker than that, you'll see the difference. 1 or 2 in the morning is enough for most people. So the adrenal stress end is very good. And there's another important treatment. There's a Tai Chi move that I recommend. You know how we talked about if you watch the news, and it's okay to watch it as long as it feels good, but the news after a while starts to feel bad. When I was a kid, if you asked the advertising execs what their mantra was, it was sex sells. And nowadays it's fear sells. And frankly, I miss the good old days. So, so the news media has learned that if they can scare you to death, they can keep you tuned in, even though they're saying the same thing over and over again. And people have this thing like, oh, well, if I'm going to be responsible, I need to watch the news to know what's going on. No, it's a fiction. If you doubt what I'm saying, and I'm on Fox, and I love Dr. Manny's really good too, and I'm on CNN, and I'm on Today's Show and the rest, and God bless them, they're sweethearts. But if you think that everything you're hearing on the news is reality, just scan between Fox, CNN, and MSNBC covering the same event. And often you'll think you're on 3 different planets. So at least 2 of them are wrong. And frankly, I think all 3 of them are meant to be more entertainment than reality. So as long as it feels good to watch it, watch it. But when it starts feeling bad, I want you to do this simple Tai Chi move. You center yourself, you look at the screen, you reach behind you, you grab the remote control, and you hit off. Or you hit the Comedy Network. And you will see your adrenals feel so much better. So these simple things, salt, water also help. So a lot of things you can do. In my practice, we'll use a bioidentical adrenal hormone, but in very, very, very low doses. High doses are toxic. Very, very low doses can be safe. But the adrenal stress end will be enough for many of you. In terms of estrogen, testosterone, most men with this disease will have a testosterone in the lowest 30% of the normal range, which means they're deficient for their age. And you give the bioidentical testosterone, not this poison that some bodybuilders abuse, but the bioidentical healthy testosterone. For those of you out there, the men with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, tendency maybe to mild diabetes, and a spare tire around the stomach, that's called metabolic syndrome. It's caused not only by excess sugar, but it's caused by testosterone deficiency. And when people come in with high cholesterol, first of all, I think the statin medications in general, unless somebody has known heart disease or diabetes, in which case it's a very good medication to be a lifesaver, but in most cases it's used to treat a blood test. And the studies show that it's not very helpful to do that. Like I say, about a 1.2 to 1.4% effect, where owning a cat is associated with a 30% lower risk of heart disease, eating chocolate with an over 50% lower risk, statin medications 1%. I'm not going to waste my time. And I think the statins can trigger fibromyalgia. Now, don't stop anything without your doctor's permission, but I have concerns, shall we say. But if you treat the testosterone deficiency in men, the cholesterol tends to come down, and the blood pressure comes down, energy goes up, diabetes often comes down. In women, too high of a testosterone can cause diabetes, so you want to watch with it. For women entering menopause, bioidentical hormones I think are much healthier and safer and less side effects than the other prescriptions. But just a handful of edamame each day. Those are the soybean pods. Dave, do you guys have a freezer section? So they have the edamame. Just a handful of soybean pods, very tasty. Add salt, paprika, heat them up. Will help naturally raise your estrogen and can help with the symptoms. It's very simple things to do. The books go into more depth on how to treat low estrogen as well. So we've talked about hormones. Let's talk about infections. The most important infection to treat is Candida. Now, there are dozens of infections that are common in CFS and fibromyalgia. Your immune system is malfunctioning, and you pick up a lot of hitchhikers. But once you get your immune system doing better with Shine, it knows how to knock out most of these infections. And people say, well, what infections? Well, there's all kinds. There's Viral infections, EBV, CMV, HHV6, there's a question mark. XMRV sounds like it's probably just going to be a contaminant, but there's numerous infections, Lyme disease, chlamydia, parasites, dozens of infections. But the ones that you need to chase and go after would be the Candida. If I see any parasites I'm testing, and most labs I think are clueless at parasite testing, stool testing, I use a Geneva Diagnostics. They do a mail-away lab. But markers for Candida overgrowth include chronic sinusitis, spastic colon. If you have either of those, you probably have Candida. But I'm going to make it simpler. If you have fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, you probably have Candida. It's that simple, and I would treat it. Treatment, well, germ warfare. You use probiotics to fight, because the healthy bacteria fight the yeast. But so many people here will take probiotics, but there's a simple but important fact that you need to know. That stomach acid, one of its jobs is to kill anything that comes in before it gets into your body. And stomach acid will kill 99.9% of healthy bacteria in the probiotics, just like they'll kill other things coming in. And that 1 out of 1,000 that's maybe still alive is probably not in much of a shape to put up much of a fight. So how do you get the probiotics in? Well, there's an ingenious thing that was developed. They have little pearls. And there's different ones. I would get the Pearls Elite. And they have 5 billion probiotics. So what's the pearl? Well, the pearl basically is a coating. It looks like a little tiny pearl. And you go ahead, and it acts like a tank. It keeps the bacteria healthy, and it will not dissolve in acid. You want to test it yourself. Cola is the same acidity as stomach acid. It has a pH of 2. So you drop them in there, and you'll see that the pearls just sit there. They're like little tanks carrying the soldiers, and they won't dissolve in acid. And they just sit there, and they have the probiotic, the food for the bacteria in it, and the rest is all in the pearl, and they just hang out. Once it gets to an alkaline environment, and the small intestine is alkaline, alkaline will dissolve the pearl. Then the tank dissolves and releases 5 billion healthy troops to go fight the yeast. Ingenious. 1 a day. Very easy thing to do. Avoiding sugar, because yeast grow by fermenting sugar. If you ever had a fermentation tank or have a friend with a still, you put in the carbs, the mash, whatever you're going to put in the sugar source, you put in the yeast, and that thing bubbles and ferments and bubbles and ferments. Ever sound familiar like a gut? Bubbles, ferments. That's the Candida a lot of times. You kill the Candida, that settles down. Antifungals, there's a host of natural antifungals, so you can take your pick out of a whole bunch of them. I will use the medication diflucan, 200 milligrams a day. The natural antifungals don't get absorbed well into the system. The diflucan will go in and kill the yeast throughout your body. 200 milligrams a day for 6 weeks. The generic, which is $42 for the 6-week course. Your doctor will say, well, that's nonsense. It may hurt your liver. There's no such thing as Candida. Well, Tylenol is way more likely to hurt your liver. If you had a toenail fungal infection, they say, oh, yeah, no problem. Here it is. But if it's sitting there leaving you like bedridden, oh, can't do that. Holistic doctors do that. Oh. So you may need to find a holistic doc for it. But the diflucan can be very helpful. And then I will look for other parasites and other infections. It's beyond the scope of today's talk, but on the website at vitality101.com, if you look up under Health A to Z and infections, you'll see an article on treating viral infections and CFS and fibro, and then treating antibiotic-sensitive infections. We do not do it based on the blood testing. The lab testing, I think, is a very questionable reliability here. We do it based on the symptom patterns. And the articles will say, if there's this symptom pattern or that, then, and it's a small percent, we'll go with the antibiotics, we'll go with the antivirals. Most people don't need them. So we've talked about shine. We've talked as a way to restore energy production and turn the circuit breaker back on. We've talked about how you get a 91% increase in overall quality of life, roughly at 90% in 91% of cases. So this is a very treatable disease. So what you need to do is to treat shine. So I warned you there would be a quiz on this. S stands for what? Sleep. H. I. Infections, immunity, and E. Excellent. Sleep, hormones, infections, nutritional support, exercise, as able. So you now know more than 99% of doctors, which isn't saying much. More importantly, you now know enough to get yourself better. Although there are medications that can be helpful, most of this can be done naturally without prescription. So you do the symptom analysis program at vitality101.com. It'll analyze it, tell you what you need to do, what's going on. Very easy. So let's go ahead. We've talked about that. But I want to take a few minutes and talk about pain and a couple other things, and we're going to wrap up pretty soon. So pain is a big thing. And a lot of people are even on narcotics for the pain, which don't work all that well, and they're miserable. But the pain is optional. So let's start with why you have the pain. Well, number one, we talked about this being an energy crisis. And what happens in the muscle when you don't have enough energy? Muscles are like a spring. It takes more energy to stretch them than to contract them. So if your muscles don't have enough energy, they will get locked in a shortened position. Think writer's cramp. Your muscles don't go loose and limp. They go tight. Think rigor mortis. Rigid as a board. So when you don't have enough energy and muscles get stuck in the shortened position, and after a couple hours or months that way, they hurt a lot. And you've noticed how somebody gives you a shoulder rub or a back rub, there's these tender little marbles, these tight marbles. Those are trigger points. That's where the belly of the muscle has bunched up. So when you restore energy production, what happens? The muscles release. And the pain goes away. So that's pretty cool. So, very simple thing. You restore energy, the muscles release. Now there's other sources of pain. There's nerve pain that will go on, and there's what's called central sensitization, which just means when the muscles hurt long enough, the brain will start amplifying the pain. You hear about central sensitization because that's what the medications that they go after. When you treat the pain in the muscles, that central sensitization pain goes down. An important point with pain. When you get pain, you're not thinking about what's causing it, you're thinking about how do I make it go away. But pain is like the oil light on your body's dashboard. You know, you're driving a car and you get this red flashing light on your dashboard. It's annoying. So if we, in medical life, if we went to the doctor and we said, that red flashing light's annoying me, what would they do? They said, well, we'll put a Band-Aid over it. Is it better now? Yeah. Then 3 miles later, your motor burns out. And you go, God, what a nasty day. You don't make the connection. Well, pain is your body's way of saying something needs attention now. If you have a broken leg or your hand's on a hot stove, it's pretty obvious what it is. But if you have a metabolic problem, you just see the red flashing light, you see the pain, but you don't know what's causing it. Usually what's causing it falls under shine, sleep, hormones, but infections, inflammation, impingement, 3 I's for pain, nutritional deficiencies, and lack of exercise. So the good news is that the pain is very, very treatable. And not just fibro pain, but pain in general. And I want to mention that in this country, how do we treat arthritis pain? We use medicines called NSAIDs, or things like Motrin or Celebrex or those kind of things. But those medications cause over 30,000 unnecessary U.S. deaths a year. That's a lot of dead people. 16,500 from bleeding ulcers. And it increases heart attack deaths by 50 to 200%, and strokes. That's major. Why do I say that these are unnecessary medications? One, because natural remedies I find and the studies show to be more effective. A study just came out comparing Celebrex to a mix of the special curcumin and boswellia. Which one do you think won? Look at the NIH study where they used glucosamine chondroitin versus Celebrex. What did the headlines say? Natural remedies don't work. What did the actual studies say when you looked at the data? That the two were pretty much equivalent. And that the natural remedies are better for severe pain. So why did they report out take Celebrex? And not, oh, because every one of the study authors except one was on the payroll of the drug companies, maybe? Now that could be coincidence. I don't think so. Okay. So looking at pain relief. One, you don't have to die from NSAIDs to get pain relief. If you want to look at medications, Tramadol, generic, cheap. Scalaxin, soon will be generic. Novocaine in a patch, very benign. Neurontin, generic. And then there's the expensive Lyrica and Baltisabella. Now again, most people you'll find you don't need the medications. But again, the pain is more toxic than the medication. On the other hand, natural remedies are even much more effective for pain. I have a book, Pain Free 123, that goes through each kind of pain. And says, like, nerve pain, you do this, arthritis pain, you do this, goes through each kind. And it goes through the natural remedies. But let's take a look at some natural pain relief. So what do you want to get for natural pain relief? I have two favorite mixes. One is called N-Pain. I don't see it up here. Oh, here it is. Okay. So N-Pain, it's a mix of willow bark, boswellia, and sherry. We'll go through some of the studies on that. Take 2-3 times a day, available at the table outside. I recommend when you're first going after pain, hit it with a high dose of the herbals. And after 6 weeks, you can lower the dose. It takes 6 weeks to see the full effect. You'll see it usually within days. But I say give it to 6 weeks. So let's take a look at willow bark, which is where aspirin comes from. In head-on studies in people with back pain, the willow bark in the dose used in 2-3 times a day was twice as effective as Motrin. And even in people with severe back pain that nothing got rid of, 40% of them were pain-free after 6 weeks. For arthritis, more effective than Motrin. Boswellia. There's another name for Boswellia. For those of you in the Bible, if you take a look, it's called frankincense. Pretty cool. Frankincense, but Boswellia in the herbal community is very powerful. In one study, it decreased arthritis pain 90%. I don't see that from medications. It's also very safe. So, and there's many studies that have come out with that. So I would recommend that you go ahead and there's another herbal mix. That's the mix of curcumin that's highly absorbed. It also has boswellia, which is good. The more is the better here. And has nattokinase and DLPA. Called Curamin. This one's by the Europharma company. You guys have that one here tonight. I saw you. You must have been warned that I was going to talk about it. Good. Pain Relief Miracle. Both of these two herbal mixes are outstanding. But if you find that you've had chronic pain, and I've treated thousands of people with chronic pain, I can